more than 500,000 migrants' legal status to be revoked by Donald Trump. Here are the nationalities who will be impacted the most. The Trump administration's latest move to revoke the legal status of over 532,000 migrants under the CHNV parole program marks a significant shift in U.S. immigration policy. As the program comes to an end in April 2025, thousands of migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela now face difficult choices: self-deportation, legal challenges, or the risk of removal. This decision underscores a broader effort to tighten immigration enforcement, reversing policies introduced under the Biden administration. But what does this mean for those affected, and what options remain available? Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our channel, U.S. Immigration News. We hope you're doing great. In this video, we will discuss: if you are interested in this, please pay attention and watch the video through to the end to get all the information. Please hit like and subscribe, and don't forget to push the notification bell on upcoming video. Trump administration has announced plans to revoke legal status for over 532,000 migrants who entered the U.S. through the CHNV parole program, implemented under the Biden administration. Migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela will lose their work permits and protections, with the policy ending in late April 2025. Why is the Trump administration ending the CHNV parole program, and what does it mean for over 532,000 migrants? Trump administration has announced plans to revoke the legal status of more than 532,000 migrants who entered the country through the CHNV parole program, a pathway established under Biden's immigration policies. This decision directly impacts migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, stripping them of their work permits and temporary protections. The policy will officially end in late April 2025, leaving many facing an uncertain future. Officials argue that the CHNV program lacked proper vetting and negatively affected American workers. As a result, affected migrants must make a critical choice self-deport within 30 days after March 25, 2025, or face detention and removal. Officials claim that the CHNV program lacked rigorous vetting and negatively impacted American workers. DHS has emphasized that the decision reflects a return to common-sense policies, which migrants are most affected by this policy. Migrants from these four nations who use the CHNV pathway are now required to either self-deport within 30 days after March 25, 2025, or face arrest and deportation. Those who have applied for alternative immigration benefits, such as asylum or green cards, may be exempt from removal. Those who do not act quickly risk arrest and deportation by immigration and customs enforcement once the 30-day grace period expires. What will happen if migrants don't leave within 30 days? Migrants who fail to comply with the 30-day self-deportation period will be targeted for arrest and deportation. DHS has introduced a newly repurposed CBP Home app to facilitate self-deportation registration, though enforcement action can still occur before the deadline. Is there any legal pathway for these migrants to stay? Migrants who pursue asylum, green cards, or other immigration relief may have a chance to remain in the U.S. However, DHS officials warn that those who have not taken these steps will be prioritized for removal once the 30-day period ends. How does this affect future U.S. immigration policies? This video change underscores a harder stance on immigration under the Trump administration. The termination of the CHNV parole highlights a shift towards stricter border enforcement and reduced legal migration channels. What should affected migrants do next? Migrants impacted by this decision should seek legal guidance immediately to explore alternative options before the deportation deadline. FAQs. What is the CHNV parole program? The CHNV parole program allowed migrants from 4 countries to enter the U.S. legally. When does the 30-day period for self-deportation end? The period ends in late April 2025 after March 25, 2025. U.S. to revoke legal status of 530,000 Latin immigrants. U.S. President Donald Trump's administration will revoke the temporary legal status of 530,000 Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans in the country, according to a Federal Register notice on Friday, the latest expansion of his crackdown on immigration. The move, effective April 24th, cuts short a 2-year parole granted to migrants under former President Joe Biden that allowed them to enter the country by air if they had U.S. sponsors. Trump, a Republican, took steps to ramp up immigration enforcement after taking office, including a push to deport record numbers of migrants in the U.S. illegally. Reuters, revoking parole status to expedite deportation. He has argued that the legal entry parole programs launched under his Democratic predecessor overstepped the boundaries of federal law and called for their termination in a January 20th executive order. Trump said on March 6 that he would decide very soon whether to strip the parole status from some 240,000 Ukrainians who fled to the U.S. during the conflict with Russia. The remarks came in response to a report that said his administration planned to revoke the status for Ukrainians as soon as April. Biden launched a parole entry program for Venezuelans in 2022 and expanded it to Cubans, Haitians, and Nicaraguans in 2023 as his administration grappled with high levels of illegal immigration from those nationalities. Diplomatic and political relations between the four countries and the U.S. have been strained. The new legal pathways came as Biden tried to clamp down on illegal crossings at the U.S.-Mexico border. The Trump administration's decision to strip the legal status from 500,000 migrants could make many vulnerable to deportation if they choose to remain in the U.S. It remains unclear how many who enter the U.S. on parole now have another form of protection. In a notice set to formally publish in the Federal Register on Monday, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security said revoking the parole status would make it easier to place the migrants in a fast-track deportation process called expedited removal. Under a Trump-era policy implemented in Jan, expedited removal could be applied to certain migrants in the U.S. for 2 years or less. With the CHNV parole program set to expire, thousands of migrants must now navigate an uncertain future. Whether through self-deportation, legal pathways, or facing potential deportation, their fate hinges on swift action and legal guidance. This decision highlights a return to stricter immigration policies, setting the stage for further debate on the future of legal migration in the U.S. as the deadline approaches. Those impacted must stay informed and explore every available option to protect their status and future. That is all today in this video. What are your thoughts on this? Please let us know in the comments section below. Thanks for watching the entire video. Hopefully, the information is useful to you. See you later in the next video. Till then, take care.
More than 500,000 migrants' legal status to be revoked by Donald Trump. Here are the nationalities who will be impacted the most. The Trump administration has announced plan to revoke the legal status of over 532,000 migrants who entered the US through the CHNV parole program, which was implemented under the Biden administration. This policy will primarily affect migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, stripping them of work permits and temporary protection. The policies are set to end in late April 2025, leaving many migrants facing an uncertain future. Officials justify the decision by claiming that the CHNV program lacked proper vetting and negatively impacted American workers. As a result, affected migrants must either self-deport within 30 days after March 25, 2025 or face detention and removal. Those who have applied for asylum or green cards may be exempt from deportations. The Department of Homeland Security has introduced a newly repurposed CBP form app to facilitate self-deportation registration, but enforcement measures can still be applied before the deadline. If migrants fail to leave within the given period, Immigration and Customs Enforcement will prioritize their arrest and deportations. The termination of the CHNV parole program underscored the Trump administration's broader approach to stricter immigration enforcement and reduced legal migration pathways. This policy aligns with the Trump's previous immigration stance, which includes ramping up deportations and rolling back policies implemented under the Biden administration. Biden initially introduced the CHNV parole program to provide legal entry for Venezuelans in 2022, later extending it to Cubans, Haitians, and Nicaraguans in 2023. His administration sought to use legal pathways to curb illegal border crossings, particularly from these nations, where diplomatic relations with the U.S. remain strained. The revocation of parole status now puts thousands of migrants at risk of expedited removal. A fasting deportations process reinstated by the Trump administration. Trump has also suggested reconsidering parole status for 240,000 Ukrainians who fled to the US during the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The broader implications of these changes signal a more restrictive immigration policy moving forward. Migrants affected by these decisions ask us to seek legal guidance to explore alternative pathways before the deportation deadline.